Uh,
All right. It's good to have you back here today. We are looking at conversations with Mr. P. I think that's what we're calling that right now. And this is our athletic director. By the way, I'm wearing some sweet swag from the athletic director right now. And this is JJ Thomas, Mr. Thomas for our students. And so why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and talk about your background a little bit, and then we'll get into it from there.
all right. Yeah, like Chris said, my name's JJ Thomas. I am an athletic director. It's my third year. Finishing up my third year at Delaware Christian. Background is, man, it's really been all sports. Out of high school, I went to Marshall University and worked in their football equipment room. So I was in charge of fitting kids with helmets, shoulder pads, doing laundry, and we were actually able to get paid to do that. So that was really cool to be a part of a football program and still be able to take care of some kids while we're going through school. After that, I actually had a little cup of coffee with Bowling Green State University with our hockey team. While I was in college, I worked with the Columbus Blue Jackets, interning there just in their equipment room, and kind of got hooked up with Bowling Green. Only lasted there a couple months just because of financials and just didn't work out. So God sent me back to Columbus, moved in with my parents, and got a job with the Columbus Clippers, which is the AAA team now for the Indians. But when I was there, it was the Yankees, which was really cool. Huge history with the Yankees, and then to be able to be a part of that was just awesome. So I had the Yankees for 2 years, and then the Nationals, Washington Nationals, for 2 years. So I was the clubhouse manager for the home team. So what I did was I was in charge of food and laundry and getting them ready to go for each game. Just trying to make sure they had everything they needed for each game. And then if they got called up to the big leagues, I was in charge of them getting all their stuff packed up and taking them to the airport and saying, "See you later. Hope I never see you again." That was what I always said. It was a kind of a joke. And I really hoped I didn't see them, honestly. It was really cool to see them the next day, either making their major league debut, pitching, or in the field. So did that for 4 years, and then got married right after that. And my wife's job took us to Toledo. So I went to the University of Toledo from there and worked with their baseball, softball, and soccer team and the equipment. And then from there, I moved back here. I was there for, I don't know, 6-8 years, something like that. And then moved back to Lewis Center, is where I'm originally from. So moved back here. My wife's from this area as well. So she got a job down here, and I got hooked up with Delaware Christian about 3 years into it, or 2 years into it, actually. Was selling sporting goods, and Delaware Christian just happened to be one of my accounts. So
I didn't know that.
I'm enjoying it. Yeah,
Okay.
enjoying it a lot, and just look forward to many more experiences here.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, so let's back up a little bit because you mentioned Marshall University, and I know because of our conversations, JJ and I like to talk sports and just shoot the breeze because we just like to hear cool stories. And so when you were at Marshall, that was Marshall's heyday, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah. I was at the middle. So their heyday was late '90s, early 2000s. I was there from '01 to '04, which '01 I had the great experience to watch Byron Leftwich, which he ended up being like the number 7 overall pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars at the time. So I got to watch that. They call it the Byron Show. So It was just, we were pretty unstoppable in the MAC. It was a lot of fun to watch. A lot of the guys that went through there end up in the league. And it's really cool to think about those days. At that time, and even today, they're getting back there. You were told that you left with 2 things, a ring and a diploma.
Wow.
And I was fortunate enough I left with 3 rings.
Wow.
So I got my diploma and I got 3 rings. So it was really cool.
I think you told me this story. Tell the story to people who watch this about the time when you had to break in his shoes.
Oh,
that's a great story.
Yeah. So we're at, so it's the heyday, obviously heyday of Marshall. And so we're at Virginia Tech. So I think, man, we're top 15 in the country, playing on ESPN, game days there, if I remember correctly, and Virginia Tech's top 15 as well. So it was it was maybe a 2015 game, something like that. Anyway, Yeah, somehow Byron, I don't know, something happened with his shoes. Well, anyway, we had to get some FedEx overnighted some shoes to us, and Nike did, and I had to break them in because we got them pretty much on game day. So on Saturday morning, Byron's 6'6", about, I don't know, 240 pounds or so, and I'm 5'10", 11 at the most. And I'm breaking in this guy's shoes that day just to try to break him in, to help him out as much as I could. And I can't remember. I mean, I think he wore them, but I don't know how long he wore them. But it was just kind of one of those things where I'm like, I'm really doing this right now. This is kind of cool. So I'm running around Virginia Tech, Blacklick, running around their field trying to break these shoes in as quick as I can. But if anyone's worn cleats knows that it takes more than a day to break in cleats. So.
Yeah. Were they your size?
Yeah, they're my size. He wore a size 11. He had
funny.
Yeah, he had small size shoe, but yeah,
That's a hilarious
size
story.
11. But
was there anybody else on that team that was in the NFL?
Yeah. So when I was there, let's see here. Chris Crocker was a defensive back that I was a defensive back manager at the time. And Chris was from Virginia, and he played for the Browns. He was a third rounder for the Browns, played for the Bengals and Browns. And then I think that's it. I might have had a couple, but he had like a 8 to 10 year career, I believe, something like that. So Chris was there. Our receivers were unstoppable, but they never really made it. Darius Watts and Josh Davis. Josh Davis was a freshman when I was a freshman, but he was a year older than me, so he was a redshirt freshman. He at one time, I think his freshman record just was broken like 3 years ago.
Wow.
For yards and touchdowns, I believe. Yeah, really Byron, and then one of my really good friends was Earl Charles. He played for the Patriots for a little bit. He was a New York guy out of New York. Running back. So he was there for a while. I'm trying to think. My freshman year, we actually had our long snapper. He had a huge career with the Rams. He actually blocked for Marshall Faulk, and so he was at the Rams he's actually in the Ring of Honor, I think is what it just happened last year or 2 years ago. I wasn't close with him or anything, but I follow him on Twitter and Facebook and stuff. And but we had a few guys that would make it, practice squad or make it for a few years, and you'd see them for a little bit of time, and then they wouldn't be there that long.
Who was the famous wide receiver that you said that would come around after he was already done? Who was that?
Oh, you're talking about Randy Moss?
Yeah, was that who it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
I only saw Randy once. He and then Troy Brown. Actually, yeah, Troy Brown was there too. Troy Brown went to Marshall in the '90s, early '90s. He won one national title with Marshall. Then he was a big person to help make them their first or second Super Bowl. I mean, if they didn't have him, he was a big deal, and he'd come back with his kids and work out and stuff. His kids would run around the field and everything.
I know you were there way after that, but obviously the history of the plane crash in the the 70s. Was that still a huge? I guess I'm asking is what was the impact of that even when you were there?
It still is to this day, Chris. So November 14th, 1970. It's always in my head. Every year, it's in my head. Little interesting story is my dad went to Marshall, and my dad knew all those guys on that plane.
Wow.
So, and it's what's kind of cool and interesting, and is the fact that he probably should have been on that plane if he didn't get one credit or something, it was something of that nature.
No way.
But yeah, so it's just a lot of things are kind of interesting how that works out. But every year they turn the fountain off at a certain time. They have a huge memorial. They bring someone huge in to talk. Chad Pennington will come in and talk. It affects everyone. Everyone knows about the day. When that movie came out, my dad, we were there. We went to Columbus. We were at the Polaris movie theater. We rented out the first 2 rows, and we had them packed. Just everyone was wearing Marshall stuff, and everyone just knows. I don't know if they still do this, but when we were there, when we'd land, everyone clapped. You just it's still there.
It's part of the culture, isn't it?
It's part of the culture, yeah. So when
Yeah.
Marshall moved to the Conference USA, they play East Carolina, and the first year there, they actually made a plaque and dedicated it because that's who they were playing. That's who they played on that day.
Wow.
That passed. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's I remember watching that movie and just the emotions that, and I know it's not it's a movie,
Yeah.
but still,
Yeah.
you just think, man, what an impact on
Right.
on a college campus that's pretty much remotely separate,
Yes.
and
Right.
then just a football program that's Division I,
Yeah.
being impacted like that. Not that that's the main thing, but
Right.
then you realize
Right.
years later that also impacts. I
Yeah.
mean, just so many lives in so many
Yeah.
ways.
Well, and some people don't know that. I mean, the boosters that were on that plane. I mean, some people lost both their moms and dads.
Ugh.
And they lost family. Like the whole family was on that plane, or would perish in that plane or crash, and just how it affected everyone. And I thought, like the movie. There's a lot of things. It's a movie, so
Yeah.
some of it's good, some of it's
Sure.
bad. Some of it's like, that's not how. Like if you're from Huntington or went to Marshall, that the fire trucks going to the site is wrong. They're going the wrong way. It's just like little
Right.
things like that. But I thought they did a great job.
Yeah.
I thought that Mac G did a great job with it, and just inserting one man to be the negative part of it, where it could have been like there wasn't that one person, but it was like there was that part of the community that really didn't want football anymore, just because of how many people it affected and how you can't bring how you can't bring people back. And
well, and I think that's a good movie that kind of illustrates the fact that some people don't want to reopen scabs and wounds,
right.
But here we are in the middle of this is what
Right.
I don't know what the date is anymore. That's how confusing I am. Oh, it's the 2nd of April.
2nd of April, right.
I know. It's like, what day is it? What's the date?
Exactly.
I don't know.
Right.
Every day is the same.
Right.
It's like we're living in Groundhog Day right now.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. I really kind of want to watch that movie just because I feel like it right now.
I had Michael watch that a few months ago. He's like, "That's a great movie." I said, "I told you."
I told you. Yeah.
The first 15 minutes, he's like, "What are we doing, Dad?" I'm like, "Trust me."
Yeah, trust me. Yeah.
But anyway, what I was going to say was, a lot of times we don't want to think about the fact that when something like that happens, the unintended consequences of the dominoes that fall and what they do. And right now in our society, that's kind of a classic example. People lose jobs, and this happens, and this happens.
Right.
But you can't just act like it didn't happen. It did happen.
Yeah.
And you have to rebuild. You can't just act like nothing's. I just quit, because it doesn't solve anything in life, business, sports, anything like that, for that matter.
Oh yeah. Well, and the 4 guys that didn't make that plane trip that were on that, in that movie and stuff, what's kind of interesting, those guys that did lose their lives, they actually paved the way for freshmen to play their first year, because before that they redshirted. They weren't allowed to play. So for that to happen, unfortunately,
it's a tragedy.
It's a tragedy, but it also helped kids get to school, in some ways, to play right away, to to move on to the NFL or wherever they wanted to do.
It's amazing how sometimes it takes a tragedy for something like that to change.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yeah, and it's just cool how that's just a main thing. Like, the "We Are Marshall" chant is awesome. It's just, you get goosebumps if you're from there, or if you went there, you just do. There were friends of mine, their parents lived through it, and they remember, like, my buddy's dad, he was an equipment guy with me. His dad cries every time they're on the field. And it's just because he still has that emotion from when it happened. It's just part of it. And it's great that it's still part of the university. It is, it's a staple at the university.
I mean, it has to be a staple, and it has to be part of the program, because you can't ignore that kind of history that impacts that kind of community, that kind of school, that kind of program to that extent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, so the coach there, Doc Holliday, he's a West Virginia native. He actually will make, is it during 2 days, I believe, or during spring ball, they actually run from the stadium to the grave site. So it's 20th Street Cemetery is up on 20th Street. It's up a hill, and they have to actually run as a team. They go up there and they sit down cross-legged, hold hands, and the pastor comes up and talks, and
Mm.
Coach Holiday talks, and just, hey, this is the impact, this is what happened, this is part of history. You guys play for them, essentially. Essentially
Right.
what they're saying. They say a few prayers, and then they run back, and it's just part of it. And they do it in rain. They do it if it's
No
snowing.
matter
They don't
what.
care. Yeah, no matter
Mhm.
what, they do it. And they sit up there, and it's awesome when that happens, because I look forward to it. I look
Sure.
forward to those pictures, because sometimes they're really cool, because it could be really foggy. And they're just sweating like crazy, but they're just sitting there holding hands. It's just it's really awesome.
Do you think, and this is kind of a little bit of change of gears, but
Yeah.
I just made me think of this. When you go from high school to college sports, every program in college has a program identity.
Oh yeah.
Like Marshall, obviously, that's if you're going there, you better realize that is what it is.
Right. Exactly.
If you go to Duke, you're Coach Krzyzewski's kid. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
Do you
Absolutely.
think because I know you've had experience at least in 3 Division I programs.
Yeah.
Do you think that's the hardest thing for a high school athlete to realize and accept that you're taking a culture that's not yours anymore and it's going to be your culture?
Yeah, and I think that I think it is for some of those kids, because they're used to being they're not used to that culture. They're looking at a culture from high school that isn't real ingrained, and then they
Right.
go to a Duke, or they go to a Kentucky, or they go to, even if you go out west like USC, you go to USC and you see all those jerseys, football wise, all those Heisman trophies. You walk in, you're like, what am I doing?
Yeah, it's not about you anymore, is it?
Right. And I think a lot of times it makes some kids grow up pretty quickly when they get there.
Either that or they fold, one of the two,
Or they
right?
fold. Yeah. It either makes or breaks them. A lot of it. But I think that also, in turn, it also creates a good recruiting tool for everyone.
Absolutely.
Too.
Yeah.
When I was at Bowling Green, so they had 2 guys win the Hobie Baker, which is Heisman Trophy winner, Heisman Trophy for college hockey.
Mhm.
And they have those in a glass case, and behind it is all this stuff, where all the guys went to pros, and like Rob Blake, who's a huge defenseman from the Kings, played there and was on their national championship team. So I mean, they have history, and you walk in, you're like, oh, this is what I'm part of. I mean, I came from a lot of history, and I walk in, I'm like, this is completely different. This is a completely different culture, but this is awesome. It's cool to be a part of it. To say that you're part of it.
Yeah, I think that's something that people don't understand, because if you're the top dog and obviously you're gonna be a top dog if you're gonna play Division I anywhere, anything, no matter what level it is.
Absolutely.
And you get there, and now it's no, this is the culture, this is the way it's gonna be. Either get in line or you can sit at the end of the bench.
Yeah, right.
I think a lot of kids just don't realize how much impact that has on their careers.
Right, absolutely. And some of those kids, like we've talked about this before, where you have some kids that want to be a big fish in a small pond, or they want to be a small fish in a big pond. And I think it just depends on what they want to get out of college athletics. Do they want?
Yeah, and I think like you said before to me, because we've had this discussion 1,000 times, is that you got to find the right fit for you, because everybody thinks that that Division I is it.
Right.
And listen, Division I has its perks. You can't argue that.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, I've watched enough soccer at every level that just because you don't play Division I soccer doesn't mean you can't play soccer.
Right.
It's just different, and that's true for whether it's NAIA, D3, D2, doesn't matter what it is. And I think a lot of people think, well, if you don't play this level, then you just don't play. Well, there's an experience for you out there. You just got to figure out where your level is and what's best for you.
Right. Well, I just think that I've seen so many kids succeed at a smaller division and get recognized for that, to where they do get a chance at the next level to find out whether it's, any kind of league,
Sure.
Hockey, football, baseball, whatever it is. If you're good enough, they're going to give you a chance at least to see what you can do. And I mean, I've seen Division III kids that have dominated Division III basketball or football, and they're like, well, let's see what can you do? Let's invite you to a combine. Let's get you an invite. It doesn't stop you from keep having those goals, because those kids have the same goals. A lot of them do. Some of them just didn't either have the grades or
they develop slower. Right.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about this. Usually guys, they don't fully develop till they get into college. Some of them hit growth spurts. You're like, man, this kid was 5'10" and now he's 6'5". What happened?
Whereas, like I was telling you one time, with like girls soccer, a lot of girls are being offered Division I scholarships by their sophomore year.
Oh yeah.
Whereas they're on the radar perhaps for guys, but that's not going to be offered before their
Right.
junior year because of the development schedule. And then there's also the pro side of it and
Yeah.
the whole DA and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
That's another
Right.
story for another. We won't
Yeah.
chase that
Exactly.
rabbit
Yeah.
trail today.
Right.
All right, so let's see. Let's talk about the Clippers real quick, and then we'll jump
Okay.
into a little bit of DCS stuff.
Okay.
So the Clippers, they're AAA. Is that right?
AAA. Yep.
All right. So I'm going to talk about that. Tell a story or two. Have at it, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just talk about when I got the job. So, I was fortunate enough. My dad's been a coach for years, and we're from Marion, which is where Chris is, resides. So
stomping grounds.
yeah, which is really kind of
It's
interesting.
hilarious.
When it's just funny that he's in Pleasant Country, which is not a big deal. It's not doesn't sit well with me as being an Elgin guy, but that's okay. So but my dad coached a guy by the name of Randy Mobley, who is I think still is the commissioner of the International League, which is the league that the Clippers are in.
I didn't know that.
So he's from Marion and known his family for a long time. And I was trying to find a job. You lose what you're trying to do at Bowling Green. You come back. You're like, hey, now what do I do? I don't know what that's out there. So I was trying to work for Randy at his office in Dublin there, and he's like, "Oh, just give me your resume. I'll send it out." And just so happens the Clippers needed someone in the locker room. Great, I'm thinking, okay, so equipment in AAA, I have no idea what I'm getting myself into. My first day, I'm like, why do I have a kitchen? Why do I have, what's all this food over here? I've never done this before. So Luckily, one of the guys that I worked with at Marshall, he was trying to get into baseball. So I called him. I was like, he did the Princeton Rays, which is the single A team in West Virginia for the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. Okay. So at that time. And so I called him. I was like, hey, I just got this job. He's like, wait a minute, you got a AAA job? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, I know. I get it. I get I'm way over my head right now, but
he says I hate you, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm like, listen, I'm just gonna grind through this my first year and see what happens, But of course, I get a job with a AAA team, and of all AAA teams, it had to be the New York Yankees, who is the most prestigious Major League Baseball team, out there.
Yeah,
So it couldn't have been anyone else. So it had to be the Yankees, of course. So I'm like, all right, cool. This, but some of the stories I have are they're just good. You always, I got invited to spring training for 2 years with the Nationals, but my first year with the Yankees, I mean, the people that came through there just blew my mind. Like,
some of the names you said. I'm not a baseball guy, but some of the names you said, I'm like, what?
Yeah, and just to be a part of, if anyone knows baseball, like the manager was Bucky Dent, who Red Sox fans don't like him at all. Hit a home run to take the Yankees to the World Series, and just that's the person I have to report to every day to make sure that I'm doing a good job. And you get a little intimidated by that because he's been around forever. He knows a lot of people, and you just again, what's really cool is you treat him like a normal person. I mean, he is a normal person. He just is very good at a sport. Which who isn't? At that level,
right?
So, but you run across those guys. I never got to spring training with them, but they were one of my good friends at that time. His name was Sean Henn. He lives in Texas. A big left-hander. I got him after he was shelled, which shelled means he just got rocked in the big leagues. Went from Double-A to the big leagues, and gave up like 16 runs against Tampa Bay. And I get him the next day. Of course, very depressed. And I'm the type of guy like, hey, that's one game. Let's keep going. Keep going. I know you got sent down, but you didn't go to Double-A. You're at Triple-A. So, and come to find out, he's him and I became really good friends. And to this day, we don't talk very much as we used to, but we do keep in touch, which is awesome. So spring training is just completely different because you're in charge of like 100 guys, and you're up at 4 a.m, setting up baseball fields with the head. So my job as a clubhouse manager is to do food, is to set up, make sure everyone has balls at each, I don't know, I guess outfield, left field during spring training, make sure I have all that stuff. And I don't pay attention. All these balls that we have are old baseballs of like all-star games and things like that. Like, you just don't think about it. You're just throwing these out there. And you're like, wait a minute, that's from that all-star game. That's cool. Or they
Whoa.
just it's just stuff I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I flew by the seat of my pants my first 2 years as a clubby because you're going 100 miles an hour, 35 guys. Guys are getting sent all over the place, sent up, sent down. They could be on the road, and I get a call, and stuff like that. So the best part, just the people you got to meet was just awesome.
I'm sure.
And you realize that some of those guys that you used to watch as a kid are actually really cool guys that like to sit down and just talk baseball or just talk life. And you just realize that you can go to them and you can trust them to, hey, I got this problem with this guy, or but one of the really good guys I had was Tony Batista, who had a huge career and then went to Japan and played, and he was always with the Nationals was my go-to guy. He actually, I think I told you this story. We're in the middle of putting out laundry, and he has about 45 Latino players around him. I'm like, Tony, what are you doing? He goes, we're getting ready to do a Bible study. I go, right here? I just, a man of faith. I don't know how that works. At the I know they talk about it, which is great, but I was like, man, how's that work? He goes, no. I just tell him, you're going to church with me, and we're going to go right here, and we're going to do it. And he would talk in English and talk in Spanish, and it was great. And you just knew that you could talk to him if there's ever an issue. And you just there's some people that I still talk to this day. One of my really good friends is in the Pirates organization, and I still talk to him. He's one of those guys that you don't have to talk to. You won't talk to a lot, but you can pick up the phone and start right where you were 3 years ago. So
when you did that, were you in charge like bats, gloves, like what?
So it was kind of cool actually. Some of the different avenues that I could have that agents would approach me with because of some of the stuff that I was better at than as a clubby than I was. I wasn't very good with the food because I'm not a cook. I don't know. So what I did in the off season was go around the restaurants and try to get like Outback and Carrabba's and, hey, I'll give you tickets, or do you want an autograph? However I can do that to exchange to get good food and to be able to not have to worry about that part of it, because I was more worried about the player. I didn't want to let the player down. I could care less what I had food wise, but it was just the last thing I thought about. I just wanted to make sure the guys were comfortable in this old stadium that I had to take care of. So bats, gloves, stuff like that, that's all from their agent. So, all these guys have contracts usually, or they have ways of getting, agents getting their stuff. The only stuff I was in charge of was I issued pants, jerseys, hats, and then baseballs would be sent to me, but we had a guy that took care of the umpires, so I didn't have to worry about mudding the balls up for games and stuff like that. I did know how to do that because I had to do it in spring training, but I didn't have to worry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just did coach. So I was in charge of coaches and then the 35 players in my locker room. So
okay, all right. So let's switch gears over to DCS. Yeah. So you've been here for 3 years. I've been here for 1 year and 3 quarters, since it looks like we're gonna be here at the house for the last quarter. But anyway, tomatoes, tomatoes. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, no big deal.
Let's see. Let's ask a couple questions here. I know some of the answers to this, but again, I don't know who's listening to this. Could be just you and me listening to this. That's okay.
That's fine. That's all right.
Let's see. So, what is your? Let's see. First thing, what is your greatest challenge? Because obviously, your experience. You go from Division I sports and the Clippers and the NHL to a Christian school that does compete in the OHSAA, but we're obviously a small fish in a very large pond. So what is the challenges that you think of off the top of your head?
Challenges for just in general at the school is we are fortunate enough that we have 5 teams really in basketball season. So I have to find enough gym space for 5 teams to practice at least 2 hours a day. And the challenge of that is, making sure that I have a place for our junior high teams and our high school teams.
Right.
And sometimes like this year, our boys team, we had almost 20 kids on the
Yep.
team, and I mean that's a lot of kids to be in a gym to share or to not have space for them. So that's one of the benefits. The best thing about that is that the gentleman that had this job before me had a great relationship with Willis down in Delaware, and we have a gym for our junior high teams that either they can share or we do after school and then later
Yeah.
practices.
What do you think is what's the plus of a small school when it comes to athletic directors?
Say that again, Chris. I'm sorry.
What's the plus of or the positives of having a small athletic program?
I think I can have a better relationship with the kids. If I was at a bigger school, I don't know if I would know near as many kids on the team personally than I do now. I mean, I think that right now I could go up to every kid and they would know who I am, and I could have a relationship with them.
That's a good point. I don't know if you listened to the one that I did with Chris Hobbs. I did that last week, I think it was. Chris's school, the King's Academy, they had, what do you say, 1,300 kids?
Yeah, because he said there was like 900 of them or
800 in the athletic department.
Yeah, or something like that.
I was like, I know I didn't respond very good. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You gotta be kidding me.
I looked at that. I was like, so he doesn't have any trouble finding people to play? That's like,
nope.
I was like, whoa.
You figure in the last 3 years they've been ranked in lacrosse, I think girls soccer, and I think football.
Yeah.
In the state, that's crazy.
Oh, and that, that's I mean, what I like about our school, a lot about our school, is that the kids that we have, I know that those kids are going to work hard, and that if we have a successful season, it's not just the wins and losses part of it. It's just the whole season itself, personally and as a team. We've been fortunate to have a couple kids that have been very successful individually, but I really would like to have a team have more than a few teams have success in 1 year. I think it just boosts our morale.
No, I agree, and it's funny because talking about morale and just team culture, I right away think of our school. I think of Coach Boggs and the girls volleyball team.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody yesterday. Actually, I'm going to release that one next week too. But the fact that if you were to walk into our girls volleyball program in August and say I'm going to play volleyball, the answer would be like, well, good luck with that.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's not happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because even though they're going to lose a bunch of seniors this year,
right.
I mean, they're still going to be awfully good next year.
Yes.
I mean, they just reload, don't they?
Right. Oh yeah. And that's what and that's what the volleyball team and Coach Boggs, what they do is they set the tone for the whole year. And unfortunately we didn't have a soccer team last year.
Right.
But when we do have a soccer team, I think that sets the tone for the boys program, but our girls program for volleyball just sets a tone for everything. And it's just because of how successful they are and just the way they present themselves. It's not.
They work so hard.
They just work hard. It's not. It's a quiet way they go about it. And it's just what their coach is. Very quiet and.
And that's not a knock on other programs at all.
No.
But it's just like when you walk into a volleyball practice, you would never know that they're 22-1.
Right. You
would never know.
No.
You would think that they're like, oh, and whatever, because they're getting after it, and they're getting after it in July. They're getting after it in January in individual workouts.
Yeah.
I mean, they are just getting after it.
Yeah.
And I'm not I coach volleyball by accident for 2 years. Yeah. So I have no idea what they're doing. I watch them like, oh, that's fun.
Right.
But man, it's just a different thing. It's a different animal.
Yeah. And it's just, it's when you go in there, you just, I'm a coach's kid. So when I go in there, I just feel comfortable. You're just like,
absolutely.
I just, okay, this is,
yeah.
I don't have to worry about anything. Then.
And
you know what I mean? With that.
Yeah. And no doubt, with this last crop, Lissy has helped set the tone.
Absolutely.
Because when your best player is that coachable.
Yes.
I mean, it just changes it. It changes the whole game for a coach.
Oh yeah. And for your best player to also be very coachable when she makes a mistake and your coach can get on her and it doesn't change the way anyone does anything. It's not like the gym gets quiet. It's the same. It
I
doesn't
don't know if
matter
I told you
it's-
this, but I've helped coach the girls basketball the last 2 years as assistant coach. Oh, actually, no, the assistant to the assistant.
Right,
Um,
right.
but I'll never forget my first day in there. I walked in and she was doing a rebounding drill, and I didn't know how coachable she was. So
Yeah.
I walked over and nitpicked how she was holding the ball. I literally just like, hey, the ball's too low. It's here. It should be here. Literally, it was like 5 inches, and she goes,
Right.
she stopped, looks at me, she goes, "Thank you so much for telling me that." And then I watched the next 5 reps, and it was 5 inches higher.
Right.
And I'm like, holy smokes.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that pretty much encapsulates Lissy,
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah.
that kind of shows the whole girls program,
Right.
in a nutshell.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
just when anyone that has any kind of knowledge like that to approach our kids, to talk to them about something, they soak it in. They might not know what
Yeah.
you're talking about, but they still soak it in. They're very respectful, like
Well,
across the board.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
across the
funny you
board.
say that because one day I said something to Coach Boggs. I said, "Hey, I said, boy, they really listen well to me, even though they don't know me." And she goes, "Oh, they better." I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Oh, I've told them when an adult speaks, you're quiet and you listen and you do what they tell you to do, no matter what." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, all right, awesome." She's
Makes
just
you feel important. Awesome. Yeah.
it's funny because I've known her for over 20 years,
Yeah.
and every year I come visit my parents and we talk and we just we talk shop, talk basketball,
Right. Right.
but I never had a chance to be around her until these last 2 years, and
Mhm.
it's so funny to watch her program. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but
No,
like
yeah.
the X's and O's are not they're not rocket science,
Right.
but they're good. Don't misunderstand me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's everything else that sets her program apart from everything
Right.
I've ever seen, because it's
Right.
just the commitment that she makes to the girls makes it to where they're all in.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's the difference. It's not necessarily the basketball, although I know, or
Right.
the volleyball.
Right.
It's the year-round commitment
Yep.
that she puts into the girls, not on the court, off the
Right.
court,
Right.
lunch, dinner, whatever, and
Yes.
it just makes a huge impact because then the girls are all in the gym.
Right. Right. And
You know?
I thought that would. I didn't know how it was going to go. I remember when she retired, she comes to my office and she's like, "Well, we'll see how this goes." Because I'm always here. They always see me in the hallway. They always see me, and I didn't think anything changed. They were still. It was still the same. Like, it was almost like she was still here.
And for those of you who don't understand, when we say retired, she quit teaching, but she's still coaching.
Yeah, still coaching. Yeah.
So, you're right. She's there. I know. I get there sometimes in the morning. I'm like, wait, why is she just leaving?
Right.
And she's doing an individual workout at 7 in the morning. I'm like, holy smokestacks.
Yeah.
It's a different animal. It is.
Yep.
You know?
And it's it doesn't surprise me when I get a phone call or a text message at 8:00 at night. "Hey, I need the gym tomorrow morning." Girls are texting me that I need in. That they need in. It's like, and I never say, if I can say no or if I can say yes, I say yes. It really hurts me when I have to say no because that just makes me feel like I'm letting the girls down on top of the top of the coach because I can't give them a place to work.
And back to the whole culture thing. I've seen girls who aren't even in her program yet, in the sense of like they're obviously in the volleyball program, but they're not playing for her yet.
Right.
And as soon as volleyball season ends and 30 days is up, they're in doing individual workouts.
Right.
I mean, we got freshmen, and we have 8th graders and 7th graders that are putting the work in because they know what it's expected of her and them in 2 years.
Right.
That speaks volumes to what you're doing.
Right. Well, it makes me it hurts me, but it also makes me feel good when I have to kick a kid out of the gym.
Yeah.
Because they're playing volleyball, and I'm like, "Hey, basketball practice is starting, but I really like that you're working hard."
Yeah, we've done that a few times too. Yep. All right, let's get you out of here on a few quick questions. All right.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. So if you had to say your favorite athlete of all time.
My favorite athlete of all time is probably Michael Jordan.
That's a good answer. Did you hear about the last dance coming early?
Yeah, I was going to talk to you about that, but I didn't know if we were going to do it on the podcast.
Oh, why not?
I was so pumped. I was like, "Oh, I've been holding off to text you because I'm like, oh." Earlier than that, because I was just selfishly, I just really wanted to do that. The only thing is, did you see that he got named like best college player ever?
That's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
It's utter nonsense.
Oh, Lou Alcindor, 4 national titles. Like, you couldn't stop him. Like, brutal. Anyway, so
I think he had 3 titles. I think his freshman year he couldn't play.
Oh, that's right. Freshman he couldn't play. That's right.
But this freshman team beat the team that won the national title.
That's the title, right? Yeah.
Listen, I'm not a Jabbar fan. I never was because he's a center.
Yeah,
But
right.
you look at his stats in college,
Oh yeah.
they're stupid.
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean,
they
they're
are.
just stupid.
Right.
Michael Jordan shouldn't even be in the Final Four for the college
No,
games. And I
no.
think he had a good college career.
Right,
But you
right.
start thinking about college career. Shaq may
Yes,
have had a better career than Jordan did without the
yes.
title.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely
mean,
did.
Shaq was
Right.
unstoppable.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
I know. That whole thing got me
When I
fired
saw,
up.
yeah, I was like, he shouldn't even, like you said, he shouldn't be. I don't know if he should be on the bracket, honestly.
I don't know.
Just,
Yeah, I know. It's like
there's so many that
he.
I could think of before him.
Well,
Just
and I know what ESPN trying to do. They're trying to fill
yeah.
time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And
Right.
I don't blame him for that. But it irritates the life out of me that we have people who. What's weird is who voted for that? Because like
Right.
people my age who love Jordan,
Yeah.
we're not voting for Jordan for college player of all time.
No.
And I'm sure younger people, if they voted, well, LeBron wouldn't be in it. I don't know. That's the
No.
weirdest poll. I'd love to see the breakdown of the poll.
Yeah, and I mean, because of the one and done stuff. I mean,
Right.
when I was, it wasn't as popular when I was a kid, but it was there. There were some kids that
Sure.
did. Garnett and those guys. Kobe. All those guys did, but there were still great college players. Grant Hill and Hurley,
Hill.
and I mean Leitner. Leitner's on the '92 team. I don't know why, but because he was the best college player
That's what it was
at that time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
Yep.
just. But when I saw that, I was like, "Oh, I needed to text you, but I forgot." I just.
Well, it's funny because who was it? Jay Billis has been on every day
Yeah.
saying Lou Alcindor is the
Right.
greatest player and is not a
Right.
discussion. And
Oh,
even Jay Williams today said, well, I voted for Jordan because I knew he was going to win. He goes, but let me tell you, Michael Jordan's not the best player of all time.
No.
I'm like, well, then why'd you
No.
vote for him? But anyway,
Right.
that whole thing
Right.
irritated me. Yeah, but back to The Last Dance.
Yeah.
So when I saw that, I actually got butterflies. I'm like, I'm pulling out the Jordan jersey.
Yeah.
I am all in on that thing, man. I'm like, oh.
So I started playing. I played their induction song for Gavin. And he's like, "What's this?" I'm like, "Oh, you understand? Like at the end when Jordan claps and smacks everybody, like that's just like the biggest thing ever." Like,
Oh, no kidding. I cannot wait for that. That's going to be
I know.
like that. Listen, when I was when we first got we were married a little while, but when 24 was the biggest TV show,
Yeah.
we would lock our doors, turn off our phones, and sit in front of the television. That's going to be for me.
Oh,
That will
absolutely.
be a turn off all my social media.
Right.
I am locked in.
Yes, I can't wait for it.
Yeah.
I'm just excited to see what it entails.
Yeah, I am
just with
too.
Everything.
I'll be curious to see because there's so many crazy stories about that team and those teams.
Oh, I know.
They're hilarious. I mean, they are hilarious.
Right.
I got a chance to meet Cliff Livingston one time.
Okay.
And it was Cliff Livingston, and because he brought by his championship ring,
Oh,
and he
nice,
left it in my office for the day and forgot it. Did I ever tell you that?
No.
Yeah. So he's like, I'd love to see your ring. He's like, I'll bring one in tomorrow. He's like, I was like, oh yeah, you got 3. He's like, yeah, I'll bring one in. I'm like, all right. And he brings it, and I'm just holding the box. Is the box engraved with the Bulls logo? I'm like,
Yeah.
I
Right.
can't believe I'm touching this. This is insane. He's like, you
Yeah.
can take it out. I'm like, so I took it out. I'm holding. He's like, you can put it on. I'm like, come on, you're messing with me.
Right.
So I'm
right.
putting it on. It's like hanging off my thumb,
Oh, yeah.
and
Which one was
he's-
it?
I don't remember
Okay.
which one it was, but I remember. So I handed it back to him. I said, "Listen, I can't thank you enough just for bringing."
Yeah.
He's like, you know what? I got to go to camps for you. Just leave it in your office for the day. I'm like, I'm sorry, what? So I started calling students of mine because I was teaching high school. I'm like, hey, you need to get down here to my office like now.
No,
What's going on? I remember one of them, the guy I interviewed yesterday, Josh McKinney, his brother Jason, huge Bulls fan. I said, Jason, get to my. So he was in my office like 10 minutes. He like,
Oh, I bet. I
bent
can
down.
imagine. Yeah.
so he comes down to the sports academy, and we're just like, he forgets his ring. He leaves the campus and forgets it at the sports academy that I'm working at.
Oh my gosh.
So my boss, Rob, he played semi-pro and a little bit of pro and had a try out with the Mavericks. He's like, man, I'll put it in the safe. He goes, Cliff Livingston's a knucklehead, man. He'd forget everything if he didn't forget it. But that dude was just like, yeah, that's fine. Don't worry about it. Because my other one's in the shop, and I don't wear this one very much. And I'm like, what in the world? But
so
he
my
had
favorite
he
poster-
told some awesome stories about
Oh, I
fights,
can imagine.
the fights in practice and stuff, the things he told about. I'm like, what? He said that Jordan would tell them that they would have fist fights in practice because if they could make practices bad enough, games would be easy and fun. And that's what they did. He said every day was just a war in practice.
Well,
This is
I've heard
hilarious.
stories about him, about Jordan, just like knowing people. He knew who was going to make it and who didn't.
Oh,
So
he
he'd
bullied
wear
people.
those. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, he'd wear
Yeah.
down those guys to the point where they just walk out. Like they just didn't want anything to do with it. I'm like, doesn't surprise me. You know what I mean? It
Well,
just doesn't surprise me.
one of the clips on a tweet that I saw the other day was saying that he said if people couldn't hack it, I didn't want them.
Yeah.
And then they said, well, did you ever break anybody? He's like, oh, I'd break them. Yeah, because he said if they were broken, I don't want them.
Right.
I mean, it just sounds so funny now because that would fly in culture today. But
no.
that's just how he ran his team. That's
Yeah.
just how it was. All right,
Right.
so let's see. So favorite athlete, Jordan. What's your favorite team besides the Buckeyes? I know that's probably.
Yeah. So I got a couple different ones. So my Major League Baseball is the Twins, actually.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. 87, 91, I started watching, and that's when they won the World Series.
Okay.
NBA is the Bulls. I don't watch them near as much as I used to, but I was a Jordan fan. So, and then I'm a Bengals fan in NFL.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. It's been rough. It's been rough for a long time, actually. But hockey, I just kind of Blue Jackets, things like that. So, but it just depends on that. I know those guys so well that I follow them. I just follow them a lot. So
yeah. All right. Let's see here. What's your favorite college football moment?
Probably my very first college football game. As a student manager, we go to the Swamp. We're 20th. Are we ranked at that time? I think we're 25th in the country, and we're playing number 1 Florida at the Swamp. And
that's cool.
First time ever, and a huge. I've been in Ohio State Stadium, different time frames. Track when they had a track, when they didn't. But this magnitude was it was different. So I was in charge of the kickers during pregame, and I'm in a tunnel and I'm trying to catch these balls that are kickers kicking all over the place, and I almost run into Alex Brown, who was like a first rounder, Rex Grossman, Jabbar Gaffney, like all those guys that were just studs then.
What year was that?
2001.
Yeah, so that's when the Swamp was at its peak too.
Yes, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, at the end of the game, we're getting destroyed, but at the end of the game, they sing their alma mater and they sway, and it looks like the Swamp is moving.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah, like the stadium is moving like crazy, and you're like, what is going on? Like, so like to piggyback on that, the 3 greatest moments that I saw was that was one of them. The second one was Byron getting carried down the field by his offensive lineman.
I thought you were going to say that one. Yeah, that's a cool one.
Because I was part of that whole thing because I had to help him get in the locker room with some of the other managers.
I was watching that game.
Oh, were you? Yeah,
I was watching that game live. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to watch it sometime because I'll show you where I am.
All right, that'd be cool.
You can't see me because he like dwarfs on me. I'm like a crutch on him. But so that's another one. And then Virginia Tech was just probably the loudest I've ever been in a stadium.
Really?
It was. You're looking at 70-some thousand, 80-some thousand fans, but it was the loudest, and that was because of just the atmosphere. It was just a high,
Did you ever get a chance to go to Tennessee?
Yes. So I went my junior year.
How loud was that compared to Swamp?
It wasn't because we were in the game.
Okay.
So Ohio State and Tennessee, when we played them, when I was on the field, they were quiet. Ohio State, my senior year, we lost on a 55-yard field goal. And Tennessee, we lost, I think it was like 16-7, 16-10.
Okay, so it's tight games. Yeah.
So they're tight games. It was quiet.
Interesting.
Kansas State was awesome because the student section, they would sprint down the student section and lay down. And as people came, they'd stand up. So you'd look, see everyone laying down, you're like, that's weird. And then all of a sudden you start watching it, like, that's really cool because one section filled, and the next section would fill, the next
seats.
So yeah. So it was just a cool little tradition that you just didn't know about because who follows Kansas State? Around here.
Yeah.
But that we upset them that year. They were number 6 in the country. That's when they had Darren Sproles and that Michael Bishop. I think he was there. I think he was their quarterback. But that was a cool game too.
That's cool.
Part of.
All right. Anything else you want to throw out there?
I don't know. Nothing really, actually. You know how I am.
I got one for you. Do you think we're going to see sports this summer?
Oh, I don't think so. Honestly.
Don't tell me that.
I know. Just everything, and that's the hard part. Like, I really wanted to say this too on here. I feel bad for these kids that are going through this right now because I remember my senior year. Oh. You're at the peak of your high school career. You run the school. You know what I mean? Like you're ready for the homecoming games and finishing out the year strong. And I have two nephews going through it, and Micah going through it, and just being
Mhm.
part of that too. I just feel bad for them, but I just
Yeah.
don't know if we're here till May. If we're sitting in our home till May. I mean, they've already canceled youth sports. Did you see that today?
No.
So Governor DeWine has already all youth sports right now are canceled.
Oh wow.
So
I
I
didn't
don't
know
see
that.
that. Yeah, I don't see that coming back.
Do you think there's going to be a long-term effect of that, or is it going to be a rebound like the economy does?
I think colleges will start struggling with it. I think if they lose college football this year,
Oh, that'd be devastating.
because since they lost, I saw something on the news before I came up to before I got online with you, they lost millions of dollars because of the college tournament.
Oh, they had to have. Yeah.
And if this goes into fall, I mean, where do you do the cutoff date? July 1, because that's when two-a-days are supposed to start, or not two-a-days, but that's when fall ball is supposed to start. I don't know if it'll be there by then. Are we going to have a way to neutralize what's going on?
What do you think? So like the NBA is now talking about quarantining teams in 3 cities and playing in 3 neutral cities. Because that's what the Premier League's talking about doing. They're talking about taking the entire Premier League and putting it in the middle of the country where it's a bunch of sheep fields. Like, I don't know anything about. I'm probably being ignorant to England, but they're going to they're talking about putting teams in the middle of the country and just playing for the sake of being on television for something to do. After they move everybody there, wait 14 days to make sure everybody's symptom free and play.
Right, and play.
Now, LeBron's come out and said that he still doesn't get the idea of playing without fans. And I think that's part of I think part of that is not fair to ask him, because you and I know that LeBron's played in front of 15,000 fans since he was a freshman in high school.
Absolutely.
You and I would play in front of nobody because that's what we've ever done.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Coaching and playing.
Right.
So what do you think of that proposal?
I mean, I think it'd be good for the world because sports is just so big. I mean, these kids. I mean, I'm getting locked in on the championship game. Like tonight, I'm pumped for the Texas USC game they're getting ready to show.
Is that on?
It's on. It's on tonight. The Vince Young scoring a touchdown at the end.
That's a great game.
Yeah, it's on tonight at like 8, I think, or something.
All
and
right.
I'm like this. I get pumped for that stuff, but I think that our world needs sports. I mean, it's just part of
Good
it.
distraction.
Yeah, it's a good distraction, and when we go to games, we don't think about anything else.
No.
We don't think about life. We don't. We think about the moment that we're there with our family or with our friends, and we're watching whoever play. You know what I mean? And I think that's what.
It's a great escape.
Yeah, it is. And I lived through. I was at Marshall with 9/11, so I remember we were supposed to play TCU that year, the year of 9/11. The week that he canceled all those games.
Yeah.
I remember how devastating that was.
Yeah.
I could not imagine it being, magnified
Weeks
by
and months.
Yeah. Yeah. Just because what are those kids supposed to do? You know what I mean? Like what's everyone supposed to do by that?
Have you I don't know if you're on Twitter much, but on Trey Young's been hilarious on Trey Young has been hilarious on Twitter. The other day, I guess it's been about a week now, he walks out of his bedroom and he's in his full All-Star game uniform, which I thought was funny. I'm like, wait, you have that? And he's shooting paper in a trash can with his All-Star uniform on.
That's awesome.
And then like a day later, he's like got the sad face, like, I need to play ball.
Yeah.
I'm like, those dudes don't know what to do.
No, that's all they know. This is completely different, but I mean, Gavin just started hockey. So he just started hockey, but now I sent that picture of you in the goalie because he's like, Dad, I need to shoot, and I'm like, you're not. I know it's a foam puck, but you're not shooting on me.
You're like, time out.
I've never played a sport in my life, let alone I'm going to sit in front of this net and you shoot at me. I don't care if you're 7 or not.
It's amazing what we do, isn't it?
Yeah. And we did it for about 40 minutes.
Yeah.
But he just, they just itch to do something. They're itching when that's part of your life.
Yeah.
Like right now I'm going stir crazy because I'm done with scheduling, and it breaks my heart every time I have to cancel a game or I see something go across on my email.
Well, that's like I talked to Landrum 2 days ago. He says he's got every practice laid out But like the next 3 months, he's got 10 new sets. He's got a couple of new offenses, and he's like, I don't know sure what to do anymore because I'm not going to teach this stuff probably for another couple of months, unfortunately.
Right.
I said, yeah, that's a problem. Yeah.
It's everyone is going to be a step behind in some way or another. Because
and I think the other thing is we don't realize how much of interpersonal relationship we actually depend upon.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you're right. We're all going to be behind too. You're right.
Like I talked to my nephew who he's playing, both my nephews. My other one didn't respond to me because who knows what he's doing. But the one that's going to go play football, I mean, he literally, his day is he gets up, he does schoolwork, he eats a ton because that's what he does because he's a teenager. He lifts and then plays Xbox. Yep. But I go, oh, how do you play Xbox? He goes, he's playing Xbox with people. Like he's online with people playing Xbox.
Now, I think Micah today, he decided he's going to break his juggling record because it was 9:54 and now it's 13:84 after today. Yeah. He's like I got really bored around 500 and I kind of refocused around 1,000. I got past it. But he's like, what? He said, I just do tricks and sit there and juggle because our yard's too mushy to do anything else. So
right. I'm really curious to see athletes for this coming fall. Like.
It's going to be interesting.
Working hard, like it'll tell if you actually are going to work or not.
Who's working, injuries. It's going to be a lot of things that are going to be fascinating.
Oh, absolutely. Because they have their strength coaches, but it's all online. Their strength coaches aren't there to be on them or if they're doing something wrong or whatever. It's just, it'll be interesting.
It will. All right, man. Well, listen, let's cut this thing off. I need to go eat. You're going to go watch the national championship game.
Yeah, exactly.
So a lot of fun. And again, I appreciate you doing this. And depending on how long we're doing, maybe we'll do another
That's
chat
I'm all for it, man.
All right,
sounds good, man.
Sounds